This happened. I don't know whether anybody has seen this, but this is in a mental institution. Have a look at this. That happened in a mental asylum, and the gentleman has been fired. That is a crazy way to, isn't it, to allow that sort of thing to go on in your mental asylums. Unfortunately, assaults on staff in mental asylums has gone up 11% in the last 5 years, James tweeted.
Yeah, I mean, they already had the lady, you know, they had her hands tied behind her back or secured behind her back. They didn't need to punch her as soon as the door of the lift shut, you know, and her, you know, her clothes have sort of, her gown has fallen open. It's on, you know, it's on back to front. Those things are supposed to go up at the back, aren't they? So she's exposed, she's naked. So yeah, it's no good. Which country is that in?
That was actually, I'm trying to remember, it was in either Latvia or somewhere like that.
Yeah, Xavier.
Yeah. All right. I mean, the other thing is, over here at least, those places, a lot of them were shut down. The old asylums that weren't very nice were shut down, but they weren't replaced with modern hospitals. And I remember one of the leaders of the Prison Officers Association, the trade union for prison officers, told me once that you know, a lot of the people in prisons, the reasons that prisons are all full is because they're full of people who should really be in a mental hospital, and but they're not. They're in the prison. They're in prison, and the prison guards have to deal with them, like often, you know, being mentally unstable and you know, maybe assaulting them, and things like that. And so it's like it's a sort of cascade of crises, basically, you know. And then many people are out on the streets in care and community where it's not appropriate, and they're not taking their medication, and they end up committing crimes or whatever. They end up, you know, attacking people in the street or something like that. So yeah, it's all a mess.
If you take a step back from all of this, right, what we've got is an extremely psychopathic mental health system. What used to be the province of the church, so for hundreds of years, if you had a problem of this sort, it would be talking to a priest or a vicar, others in your congregation. There would be a kind of, I don't know if I could say love bomb, but, you know, maybe even scores of people would be concerned about your future. And that in itself is a massive boost. Now what we've got is a predatory system which takes God out of the equation and inserts instead these antidepressant, antipsychotic drugs, which all they do is, generally speaking, they make things worse. So they make you more psychotic, and also they can turn people into killers. They, you know, so the system is totally predatory.
It is,
and by the way, it was Virginia Bottomley who was health
very
secretary.
briefly.
I was there. It was her that introduced this care in the community. They shut down the mental hospitals. I myself, back in 1999, at David Rice Hospital, I think it was called, up in Norwich, we did a protest for 2 weeks outside this ex-mental hospital that had been closed, and we were in the papers in Norwich. If you go back, you'll see. And we were
very briefly, Tony.
We were on the placards in Norwich. We had people for weeks, for the weeks we were there, coming to see us and explaining how wonderful that mental health institution had been for them. So they'd had a difficult time in their life. They'd been to the mental hospital. They'd been looked after, maybe for a few months, just strolled around in the grounds. and how it had helped to heal them. That's all. It was all closed by the Tories, Virginia Bottom, the undercare in the community.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're quite correct. There is good news on that point because there is a new mental health facility in London that houses over 650 people. It's called the Houses of Parliament. Let's move on to Israel. So what we're going to do is we're going to take you through, first of all, some things that have happened today, some things that are about that are happening at the moment. So we're going to show you a couple of videos from earlier on today. Remember, those of you who were in the chat yesterday, when we told you the invasion was imminent and was going to happen, we were told within the next 48 hours. Let's have a little look. This was part of what was happening this morning.
It's a flare. Yeah.
So that was video taken from inside Lebanon. We're going to go through everything else in a short while so we can get everything up to date for you. Here we go. We're going to have a little look at this as well. This is in a place called Heret. Should be. That one's not going through. Seem to have a problem with that one. We'll move on to this one. This is pretty awful. And of course, should we say there was quite a few dead underneath that. And of course, Iran has used hypersonic missiles in retaliation. They've also used other missiles. We're going to have a little look at them. Then we're going to go through what we've got for you. Okay. So look, this is Israel getting pounded with launches from Iran. And this is happening as we speak. Also, out in the Negev desert, this has happened. Let's have a look at this. And of course, there is a massive...
المطار ده ينعم تحرك 200 المطار يا رب الله يا
That's just in the Negev desert, so that's the air base there which is getting hit. Let's have a little look at this. This is going from Iran.
It reminds me of the film The Day After, where they launched the missiles and everyone stood around looking up in terror as they fly away towards Russia.
Yes, and let's finally have a little look at this. Gift from Iran there. The West Bank rather enjoying having those. And of course, we have something else to show you as well. Let's have a little look at this. Let's see if we can get this one up for you. Let's just have a look. Should have it. No, we don't have that. It's not come through yet. We've got major issues here, haven't we? Because we've now got Iran absolutely pounding the place. This is going to be a problem, isn't it? Netanyahu's been present for hours alongside a number of ministers in a fortified underground location in Jerusalem. Israel have threatened to respond, and the mission of Iran to the United Nations has said if Israel dares to respond, there will be a crushing response from Iran. So that tells you everything you need to know on that subject. So we're now going to go through exactly what happened, what we have, and we're going to give you maps and everything else to support it. As you know, both Jameses will know, I've spent a lot of time zipping around various embassies, many, many miles away from home as I am now. Zipping around various embassies and meeting various people, and some of them very nefariously at 4 o'clock in the morning. We got our hands on a document, a United States document, that we've had to take certain precautions because of everything that is detailed in that document. And that has now gone to a place of safety and to various places of safety because, to be honest, this is a bigger story we're going to be breaking here than we did when we exposed the Nazi in the Canadian Parliament. Now, there is a United States document out there, and it's basically looking after the Israeli settlement plan 2303-86. Okay. And this is, as I say, this was supplied to us by absolutely unimpeachable sources, and of course has been corroborated since. Now, in this document, amongst other things, this 19-page document is a completion of stage 1 by end 2025. Upon completion of Plan 2303-83 for land occupation in Gaza, all components to be ready by November the 19th, 2024, or earlier if feasible. Having subjugated Hezbollah, and bear in mind this document was made in August 2022, having subjugated Hezbollah by means of electronic targeting, satellite imagery and surveillance, rapid deployment of forces in Area 4, which is Eta Ash to Bint Beil, to support strikes to a demarcation line 1 or stage 1 after border. And the demarcation line, or strike 1 that they're talking about here, is very, very short. I'm going to get this up for you, 2 seconds, and we'll have the map to show you what they mean by this stage 1. So this is stage 1. It is a line from Eta Ash Shab and Bint Jebel. That is going to be stage 1 of Israel's, with America's full backing, of the planned occupation. And I'm going to put that. What I'll do is I'll put that map in the general chat for you, so you can have a look. This is an area.
You're absolutely spot on with that.
It's just, and of course, we're going to put this up as well. Somehow, I don't know how, but the good old boys at Intel Republic managed to get hold of this, which is a bit more of the full plan, which is planning to drive Hezbollah north to Litani River, including Tyre. Okay, and we're going to get another map up for you in 2 seconds that show, once again, we'll show, and we'll leave it up there while we're talking. But there is a 3-point plan to this. Okay, 3 points to the plan. And that is the first stage. So after rapid settlement of Plan 230383, which is the first stage, we move on to the plan of 2303/84 to be implemented on conclusion of airstrikes with surgical deployment of rapid action forces in Israel. Okay, and we'll go through a little bit of what that means to everyone and everybody that's here. We have a major problem there as well, because they're saying additional support of US and targeting intelligence will be required. Completion of stage 2 by end 2026 as the coastal road to Tyre, supported by naval intelligence consisting of rapid deployment personnel upon completion of airstrikes to target. Okay, this is very much something that they're going to be doing next. They're going to be making sure you are fully targeted. We've got a map coming up now for you. 2 seconds. Let me just get that up for you. So here we can see the Lebanon map. You should be able to see this. We'll bring this up nice and big for you. So you can see here Tyre down here in the bottom right hand corner. Yes, you should be able to. Sorry, bottom left hand corner. Now the idea is to go up the coast road in the second part of the strike, to go up the coast road to there, and obviously that is the second part to be completed by 2026. Naval intelligence consisting of rapid deployment with personnel upon completion of airstrikes to target. Plan 2303-85 to include rapid drive of population beyond Jabal Amel. Jabal Amel is roughly around here. The whole idea is to make a straight line just above Tyre, straight across South Lebanon there. All hospitals to be designated terrorist hubs, i.e. the Al-Inya hospital, which is just inside the border. After settlement of Ukraine's situation, transfer of area of responsibility for the Ukraine war to be transferred to the UK. Stage 3, 230385, to be completed by 2027. So this is a 3-year plan. Helping this 3-year plan over the next 3 years is the US, and we've got documentation of the people that are actually going to be allowed to go and help them left, right and centre. From the American side, the USMC Fleet Anti-Terrorism, the 75th Rangers, they're going to be there as well. The USMC Force Reconnaissance, USMC Anglico, the Moscow Raiders, and the Army Intelligence Support Activity from the Americans. So that's the American, should we say, intelligence services and Marine Corps and rapid response that are going to be there. So the first phase has to be completed by 2025, the second phase by 2026, and then the UK is to be handed control of the war in Ukraine, and by 2027 all 3 of these phases have to be completed. Speech and journalists must be curtailed where possible, particularly stations such as Al Jazeera, to be targeted, as well as various anti-Semitic individuals. All measures should be taken to stop disinformation and misinformation. This is, and there is another package for one that says Iran finally free. This is all documented stuff. Your thought that we'll go to Tony Gosling first of all on this. Tony?
All I can say, Warren, is you're hired, mate. Fascinating, excellent, looks absolutely credible to me on first sight. Yeah, so important in some of those maps, by the way, which is obviously this is a US operation. I know our friend there was saying this is Israel driving it. It's not Israel driving it. This is a superpower operation that Israel. It's very much like Ukraine. It's a proxy war. In fact, although the Israelis make a lot of fuss about, there's a lot of propaganda coming out of Israel about how they're going to help the Iranian people overthrow the revolution, as we heard Netanyahu saying yesterday. Actually, this is almost all bluster and PR. The real heavy lifting and boots and planning behind this is Pentagon planning, CIA planning. And the real proof of that is the fact that Israel is 100%, and I mean it, 100% dependent on the intelligence and financial support from the United States. But the other thing is, so we've got the Golan Heights involved in that particular operation as well. So it's quite clear to me, and it's the first time this has dawned on me, that the strategic area of the Golan Heights, just to the east of the area that you're talking about there, this is a key part of the Israeli and US plans, and British, let's face it, plans to take southern Lebanon permanently. So very interesting, very impressive. This whole thing about the Litani River, I think we'll probably be seeing, I have premonitions, we'll be hearing quite a lot about this in the coming days, weeks and months. But also, we've entered, I think, a very interesting phase from a journalistic point of view, because there's lots of denials and misinformation, disinformation coming across the airwaves. I was listening to the BBC 7 o'clock bulletin just before you came on, and they're saying, "Oh, I heard a big bang," the guy said. And it sounded like an Iranian missile being intercepted in the sky by the Iron Dome. Well, I don't know if he's something wrong with his directional hearing, but it seems quite clear and obvious to me that these are big bangs going on the ground, and also this is the next phase in this potential Third World War that they're cooking up and stoking up. And I'll finish by just one of the things I'm regularly asked about this is, what is it all for? What's the point? Is it about money? Is it about oil? Is it about gas? No, I think it's about creating a global conflagration for specific purposes. Purpose number one is the programmable money, a replacement for the IMF, a complete clean sweep, which is, if you can imagine Naomi Klein's shock doctrine on steroids, they need something like that to persuade the world's public to take on an entirely new financial system. In fact, there's a battle going on right now between the Western financial institutions and the BRICS, obviously. But in the background to all of this is this attempt to create a absolutely massive conflict between this fake Jewish Zionist entity and the genuine Muslim world, a sort of battle of good and evil, almost like a kind of an Armageddon. The idea here is to try and discredit these Abrahamic faiths and get everyone thinking, oh, the Bible, all that stuff is terrible, it's wrong, and to bring in some kind of New Age religion. Well, we'll see if they're going to try that this time. But to me, these are the main objects. They do actually, it's easy to call somebody like Adolf Hitler, and many did, a madman. But the object, they had objects, the Nazis, very specific. Mostly their object was looting the entire, the whole of Europe, and then squirreling that money away to be used in a kind of Fourth Reich financial empire after the war. There was a logic to it. It wasn't just madness. It's what the easiest way, the kids can see exactly what this is. It's evil. It's very calculated, using death and destruction to feather your own nest, to increase your own power, and also to further the interests of the financial elite, the private equity firms, the people who are now actually, they've bought up all of our mass media pretty much. They've got them bought and sold, as well as our political parties, and as well as many of our industries that they've monopolized. So that's in a nutshell, that for me is what the end objective of all of this sort of stuff is. But anyway, Warren, I just want to congratulate you. Fascinating, and it looks to me pretty solid. No one can tell, and even you can't 100%, but it looks 99% like you've got an absolute gem there.
Yeah, it's absolutely. I'm so very happy.
Well, I think if Iran does get dragged into this, which is highly likely, I think there's going to be a lot more Americans than that. They're going to get dragged into it. I think it will be. I mean, Tony said himself, it's got the potential to go to World War III. Of course it has. The Russian President Vladimir Putin, I was reading all over Twitter last night, was called to an emergency meeting. So he knew this was going to happen. He knew what Iran was going to do, and that's why he went to the emergency meeting. And he knows how much this could escalate rapidly out of control, and so does everyone else.
And of course, last night we were able to tell everybody exclusively last night, because just as Paul and I finished the show, I suddenly received all this various people going, everything that we sent you, that's now about to happen. So we knew that Israel, I was sitting on this stuff for a while, for a few days, and they said it is now Israel or a go. Tony Gosling, James was saying that this could easily escalate. It is staggering, though, isn't it, that they've planned this far ahead, Tony?
Not really. I mean, these big strategic moves. There has been talk about this for a long, long time. I'd just like to, if anyone is watching, listening, go to antiwar.com. You'll see the US is already starting to ship troops to Israel. And that is, of course, what this is really all about. The idea really is to bring in superpowers. The Syrians will have, and already, of course, do have on the ground, the Russians backing them. The Iranians have got a very close alliance with the Russians as well, of course. The Chinese are kind of hovering around in the background. Their role has been really to be inscrutable, hasn't it? I mean, you think about the Chinese role at the United Nations Security Council over the last year since this genocide began. Nothing really. And of course, they could have been fairly belligerent, even putting forward plans for UN troops to be sent to separate the Israeli Defense Forces from the Palestinians, that sort of thing. They haven't done anything like that.
No.
So, yeah, the Americans are already sending troops. I think the article from memory says something, a few thousand US troops last night was announced going to Israel to help defend the country, well, which is a bit ironic since the Israelis are the ones who are doing the invading of another country and not actually being invaded themselves. But like I say, I had a real kind of amazing kind of dawn moment looking at your map, thinking, well, for years and years I've been looking at the Golan Heights, thinking, why do they want to keep hanging on to this? Apparently there's some oil under there. They don't seem to be all that excited about drilling massive oil field, which Rupert Murdoch, by the way, has got a big stake in. Eugenia,
having a eureka moment.
Sorry?
Having a eureka moment.
Well, yeah, and so actually, Golan Heights is quite clear on the map has been an important kind of zone for the Israelis to basically, because it's mountainous, make it deny to everybody. That's what they've successfully done. It's a bit like Switzerland sitting there, and of course, by controlling those heights, it's not. Most of us thought that this was really a way of, threatening Lebanon from holding high ground. Sorry, Syria. But now it's quite clear. It's really about controlling the land, the lower lying land between the Golan Heights and the Mediterranean, and pushing up through Lebanon. But we've seen an amazing. Just finish. If I just finish this point, an amazing thing has been going on with this whole business since October 7th last year. First of all, Netanyahu's been saying, on behalf of Pentagon, he's been saying, look, we're going to destroy Hamas. What's happened is, of course, they haven't destroyed Hamas. What they've done is made Hamas stronger and stronger. They also talk about, we will release the hostages. No, they've been killing the hostages in Gaza.
Or sausages.
And now this same, yes, that's true. The same is happening now. Exact same modus operandi is being used in the propaganda machine in the Western world to say, well, Hezbollah, we're going to have to destroy Hezbollah, and so we're going to have to go and kill all those poor Lebanese Christians who, unfortunately, have Hezbollah in their midst. And then they're also now talking, Netanyahu's speech yesterday he did, is now talking about liberating the Iranian people from their revolutionary leaders. I mean, basically, the guy has lost the plot. He's an absolute megalomaniac, and I don't think you can really take anything they say seriously. When I hear about a Lebanon ground invasion from the BBC, I think, well, is it really happening? Because we're in that fog of war sort of situation when there's enormous amounts of disinformation and misinformation flying around deliberately to wrong foot people. So I'll just leave it there, Warren. But I think that's the ultimate thing, is they're trying desperately to manufacture fake reasons to sell to the British public, the American public, the European public. And to be honest with you, I think Britain and America are almost on their own in the rest of the world in real support. Of course, von der Leyen and NATO in Brussels, they are big supporters of the Israelis, but the rest of Europe, other than Britain, other than the UK, are have very cold feet over all this, as well as over Ukraine. Actually, like the Spanish on Ukraine are they just don't want anything to do with it.
No,
so
they don't.
This is the US and it's Israel and it's the UK that are really behind this genocide, backing this genocide, and also this ridiculous attempt to expand Israel, which will actually possibly end up Netanyahu destroying Israel. He's the biggest threat to the country that exists in the world right now, I believe.
Yes, absolutely. And of course, we challenge anybody from the American military, the American government, to come on and challenge anything that we have said here. The door is wide open to you. Tony, if you're there. Right, Tony, speech and let's talk electronic devices before I go on to speech and journalists and somebody else. Electronic devices, October the 7th. These were all. This is from a plan from 2022. So they were planning to blow people up, weren't they? Left, right, and centre.
Yeah, I think also this means also. I mean, it's not just blowing up. I mean, I think there's been quite a lot of disinformation about the capability to blow phones up, and mine will probably blow up as I'm saying this. But I mean, the pager thing. There was, I think, at the time, a couple of weeks ago, a deliberate disinformation campaign to get everyone worried that their phone was about to blow up. yeah, these things can catch fire, whilst they're charging, etc. But the batteries are, I think you'd have to be pretty clever to turn a battery into an explosive device. I don't think it's really feasible. These pages were deliberately manufactured to do that. Most don't. But I think what they're talking about is they're talking about hacking. They're talking about that sort of interference. I'm not saying that trying to trivialise Richard Medhurst, etc., being Sarah Wilkinson being arrested, but these things are done, not just as with Julian Assange. And isn't it amazing? Today we've seen Julian doing his comeback speech, although apparently it's a one-off in Brussels, talking about, really, I think, doing a fantastic job in explaining that he was prosecuted for doing journalism, and denying that although he had to admit to doing journalism to get released, that actually it was lovely to hear him saying, well, actually, I just said that so I could get released.
We've literally got 2 minutes, Tony. Sum up if you can, buddy.
I'll be very quick. Okay, so so the targeting of journalists is extremely worrying. I just want to share with you a horrific story I heard yesterday. Our correspondent in Gaza, Wafa Al-Udaini, who's done several reports for my program in Bristol, the program. She was not just her, but also her 2 children, husband, were murdered by the Israelis, and I actually spoke to one of the candidates to be the General Secretary of the National Union of Journalists last week about all this, saying, look, the situation for me is that I'm thinking to myself, should I phone her and ask her to do a report, because this could mean that the electronic surveillance means that she gets targeted, and then I hear literally 3 days later that she has indeed been targeted and killed by the Israelis. So she's done various reports for our program, and this to me is one of the most horrific aspects of all of this, is all of the evidence is being, the people who are gathering the evidence, the journalists, the people who are getting the news out, 180, I believe it is now, 180 journalists have now been killed, more than both in World War I and World War II. This is absolutely unprecedented, Warren, unprecedented.
It is absolutely brilliant point, well made.
The weekly program is live. It's the easiest way to find us is thisweek.org.uk. The actual stream is called talkradio.org.uk stream, and you can hear the show from last week, which is at 11 and 5, every 11 a.m. and p.m., 5 a.m. and p.m. throughout the week. And we have, in the background there, we have Sputnik radio in the background, so whilst we're not on, they are. Thisweek.org.uk, and it's live every Friday at 5 p.m. UK time.
Thank you very much indeed. And of course, a massive thanks to my guest. Where you can find me is after tonight's revelation. You'll be hiding under the sofa. Thanks ever so much to everybody who's taken part tonight. Tony Gosling, Paul Brooker, James Rossi, James Tweedy. That's the end of the show. People might stay behind for a bit of Q&A if you want it. Thanks very much. But for now, thanks and good night.
Good night.